So it's been a while since we've chopped it up on the podcast. Last week was crazy in terms of all of the things that were transpiring from a football standpoint and a personal standpoint. So, all of those things, the confluence of things coming together led to no podcast last week, but we bat like cook crack this week. NFL week 1 of the preseason in the books. Thank God. Mercifully, it's over. Now we have to do it all over again. Now, at least week 2 of the preseason will probably give us a little bit more entertainment, a little bit more into the window of what some of these teams are trying to do. Look, you're going to just have teams that just flat out pass on the preseason. We already know this to be a fact. We'll talk more about that, but this entire show is going to be dedicated to week 1 of the preseason. As much as I don't want to do this, I have to do this. So bear with me as I go through the slate of games in week 1 of the National Football League's preseason. Hang on. It's going to be a bit of a bumpy ride. You're dialed in to the LouieTeeNetwork podcast that starts now. All right. Would be nice if you could hear me. Can you hear me now? All right. I don't know if you guys could hear me before, but I don't know if you could or not. But NFL preseason sucks. It truly does. It's a terrible product. Honestly, if it's not for the young boys, I'd have zero interest in the NFL preseason. Anyway, let me do this the right way. Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the 283rd installment of the Louie T Network podcast. Of course, I'm your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. This entire episode is going to be dedicated to the NFL Week 1 preseason slate. I can't stand the NFL preseason with a passion. There's this excitement for the first sight of football, and then you realize this isn't real. And so it sets in like, oh, I'm excited, I'm charged up, I'm ready to go. And then you realize Cowboys aren't playing Dak Prescott. The Raiders aren't playing Derek Carr. The Chargers aren't playing Justin Herbert. Rams aren't playing Matthew Stafford. Brady's not around for the Buccaneers. And it sets in that this is trash. Now, again, the preseason isn't for those guys, right? It's not for Aaron Rodgers. It's for Jordan Love. It's not for Tom Brady. It's for Kyle Trask, right? That's what the preseason is all about. I want to see Davis Mills. I don't want to see Davis Mills play 2 possessions like he's some kind of stud. I want to see Davis Mills actually go out there and play a quarter of football. I want to see Davis Mills attempt 3 passes and then come out of the game. It's Davis effing Mills. Keep him in the damn ball game so we can see what the hell this guy can do. Anyway, that's why the preseason sucks. Because everyone's got an agenda. And look, at the end of the day, it's all about getting to the starting blocks with all of your stuff, or at least as much of it as you can. You look at what happened to the Jets with Zach Wilson, and everyone, that's their biggest fear. Playing their guy in the preseason, a meaningless game. He goes to cut on his knee, and it buckles under him. That's the worst fear of every team in the league, which is why teams don't even bother to play their players. We've had this conversation before. It's why the preseason sucks. It's for the young guys. It's for the young boys to go out here and show what they can do to try to make the football team, and for others to showcase their skills so that they can gain the confidence that they need to play at this level. But honestly speaking, preseason, it bites. So we'll have one humongous Gem Droppin Session today that will surround week 1 of the preseason. We'll go through all the games that actually put players on the field that we care to see. If you didn't play your players, then I'm going to skip your game. You don't care, I don't care. That's always my philosophy with the preseason. If you don't care, why should I? I don't give a shit if you don't give a shit. So there were games where those two teams simply didn't give a shit. They might have scrimmaged one another during the week of practice, so they didn't need the game. Whatever the case may be, your philosophy is not playing my guys, whatever, cool. I don't have anything to do with that. I'm just going to move on. So we'll start on Thursday. There were a couple of games on Thursday. Since we didn't meet at all last week, we would have tackled these two games on Friday's podcast, but there was no Friday podcast. So we got to go all the way back to Thursday last week. There were two games. New England hosted the New York Giants, and so that's where we'll start. But, before we do that, go ahead, let's turn it to the gem dropping session, shall we? I think we shall. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T double E. Open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. So, the Giants and the Patriots were the first preseason game that I took a look at. I think it was the first preseason game of the week, honestly. I think they started at 7 and the Ravens and Titans started at 7:30, or they started at 7:30 and the Ravens and Titans started at 8, whatever the case may be. The Giants played their guys. And so what I did for each game that I watched is I gave 3 bullet points for each team. For the Giants, Saquon Barkley looks spry. He looks healthy. He looks like he's ready to explode. That's good for the Giants. The biggest thing with him is he needs to stay healthy. That's always been the complaint with Saquon, is he's got to stay healthy, but he looks to be in tremendous shape. He looks to be explosive. And now they just got to get him to the starting blocks, and they got to keep him healthy for 17 weeks. Kenny Golladay continues to disappoint in New York. Right now, I think now it's becoming mental. We know Kenny Golladay can play, but last year was a disappointing season. I think he's in his own head now. He had a dropped pass on a third down by the end zone that resulted in the Giants having to attempt a field goal. He just looks out of sorts. I think he's in his head now. And New York can be a very harsh media. As we all know, it's one of the bigger media markets in the nation. And when you stink, they're going to let you know about it. And I think it's starting to get to Kenny Golladay. I think he's starting to be in his own head. Conversely, Colin Johnson actually had a really good game outside of the fact that he fumbled on one particular catch that hurt them, and the Patriots were able to scoop it up. But outside of that, Colin Johnson, he looked like what Kenny Golladay should look like. He caught the football. He made plays after the catch. If they can get Colin Johnson to play well, and if he can make that football team, he may be able to add something, because he's another big target. 6'5", 6'6" receiver. He looked good. Kayvon Thibodeau was awfully quiet. The first round pick, the top 5 pick by the New York Giants, edge rusher. I'm not a Kayvon Thibodeau fan. I've mentioned this several times. I'm not a big fan of his. And he looks, to me, he's a one-dimensional pass rusher. If he doesn't win with speed, he's not going to win. So I was not shocked that he was pretty much non-existent in the game. And it's one game. I don't want to blow it out of proportion or anything like that, because the preseason, all I'm really looking for from these rookies, specifically the top guys, is that you belong. Just show me you belong. Show me that this isn't too big for you. Show me that you can come in and acclimate yourself to the climate that you're now in. The speed of the game is faster. The physicality is much greater. Show me that this isn't too much for you. He was fine. He didn't get much pressure on the quarterback. He didn't make a tackle for loss. He didn't put a thumbprint on the game. He played enough snaps to do something. He did nothing for the most part. Again, big nothing burger, nothing to worry about. We'll see if he does anything in his second preseason game. The reason I even bring it up is because right out of the gate, you're watching the Detroit Lions game, and Aiden Hutchinson has a tackle for loss on the second play of the game. That's what you expect out of a guy that's a top 5 pick, to jump out there and show you something right away. for the Patriots, there's nothing here. They didn't play Mac Jones. I was disappointed in that because, again, you're sitting Mac Jones as if you don't have a whole new offensive coordinator, as if Mac Jones has arrived. That really irked me. And honestly speaking, the Patriots, I'm not sold on whatever the hell it is they're doing on offense right now between Matt Patricia and Joe Judge. I don't know what they're doing, but I'm not sold on it. So for me, Mac Jones needs to be out there because you need to be building a rapport with whatever the hell this conglomerate you have, where you haven't actually named an offensive coordinator. You just got a bunch of guys doing shit. So I would have liked to have seen them put Mac Jones out there, but they played Bailey Zappi. Obviously, he's the rookie that they drafted. He's going to take the new Jarrett Stidham role on the Patriots, the young guy that's the backup quarterback to the backup. They always have some veteran there that's already been there 6 times. Of course, that guy is Billy Ho, who's back in New England for the 17th time. So Bailey Zappi was solid in his NFL debut, 19 of 32, 205, touchdown and interception. Tyquan Thornton, it's usually a death sentence if the Patriots draft you as a wide receiver in the first 2 rounds. You pretty much, we're going to probably bury your career here in the next 3-4 years. Tyquan Thornton was overdrafted by the Patriots out of Baylor in the 2nd round. I feel for the kid because more likely than not, he's going to stink. However, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm not going to curse him because he's a Patriot and he was drafted in the 2nd round, but we'll see if he can play or not. The Patriots are awful at drafting wide receivers, so I'm just going to assume that this kid's going to end up not being very good. He had 2 catches, 9 yards, and he had a touchdown. The touchdown was a nice play, a scramble drill situation where play broke down, was able to uncover, catch the football. Good for him. Christian Wilkerson was the star of the show for the Patriots. He's trying to make the roster. He made a great case in his first preseason game. Obviously, he's going to have to show consistency. 8 catches, 99 yards for Christian Wilkerson. I was impressed with him, and I think I want to see more. So that was the Giants at the Patriots. Nobody cares about the score. As long as you get out of the game healthy, that's all that really matters. Titans at Ravens. This is the only team in the league that seems to care about winning these things. The Baltimore Ravens, they've now won 21 straight preseason games, eclipsing their record, which they set last year when they made it 20 in a row. Now it's 21 in a row as they get the win here. But all I really cared about, because obviously Lamar Jackson wasn't going to play, all I really cared about was looking at Malik Willis. If Malik Willis wasn't in this game, I would have skipped this game in its entirety. I had no interest in this game whatsoever. But Malik Willis was playing for the Tennessee Titans, so that piqued my interest. So I was encouraged with his debut. He's an athlete. He looked good rolling out. There were a couple, like his first throw of the game, indecisive. On the bootleg, he's got a guy wide open in front of him. Thinks he wants to push it down the field, realizes I probably should just take the easy money in front of me, and then throws a 510-mile-an-hour bullet behind the fullback. First of all, it's a fullback. You can't throw that thing that hard with the guy right in front of you and then behind him at that. But he settled in. Had a deep ball to Racey McMath. That was a great throw. Had a nice scramble, ended up scoring. So I thought he played well. 6 of 11, 107 yards, and a touchdown run from Malik Willis. I was impressed with him. I liked the debut. I'm encouraged. I want to see more, obviously. The Titans last year, Derrick Henry's absence showed them that they must have a backup running back because of how much the run game means to their offense. So they moved on from the running back that really saved them last year in the absence of Derrick Henry, and Deontay Foreman. He's now a member of the Carolina Panthers, if I'm not mistaken. So I was impressed with a couple of backs, Julius Chestnut and Hassan Haskins. Haskins is a Michigan product. Julius Chestnut was a brand new name for me. Never had heard of this kid, but he looked good. And so those are 2 guys that are, I think, battling for more playing time and an opportunity behind, Derrick Henry. And so we'll see what happens there. But I thought both of those guys played well. Haskins caught it well out of the backfield, had a nice catch and run. And Chestnut was just running physically. He was running hard, yards after contact. And Treylon Burks with a quiet debut. I mean, look, I think they made a mistake moving on and trading A.J. Brown. I don't think Treylon Burks is going to fill those shoes. That's a massive void now in the Titans offense. And I don't think Treylon Burks is equipped to fill that void. We will see. They gave it to him on a jet sweep. He looked slow and sluggish to me. He was never that fast anyway. He was a 4.55 guy, but at his size with the ability to go up and get the football, that 4.55 was plenty fast. I want to see what he's able to do. I'm not going to sell this kid short. I'm not a believer. He's going to have to make me a believer. Right now, I'm not buying what he's selling. I think the Titans made a mistake. I think they really hurt their offense, but we'll see what happens. As far as the Ravens are concerned, a couple of nice veteran performances. Tyler Huntley and running back Mike Davis. I think it's important that the Ravens add a veteran running back. Remember what happened to them last year with all the injuries, whether it was Justice Hill or, Gus Edwards, obviously J.K. Dobbins. They had all those injuries to the running back position, and they didn't have a guy. So now you've got Mike Davis in there. I've always liked Mike Davis. He's a solid NFL running back, and he's going to fit in nicely there. Shouldn't have to use him as often, but in a pinch, if you have to, it's good to know you've got Mike Davis on your roster. And Tyler Huntley was really good. He's the perfect backup to Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. There are so many people out there saying, hey, you should go get Tyler Huntley. No, not unless you're going to play the style of football that the Baltimore Ravens play. You should keep him right where he is. Be my guest. If you want to try out Tyler Huntley in your offense, knock yourself out. I will leave him right here in Baltimore where he belongs. He looked good in this game. How about Isaiah Likely? He's likely to be good. Did you see what I did there? Yeah, that was a little joke. Isaiah Likely was a guy that a lot of people were high on out of where did he go? He played for the Chanticleers, right? And it was crazy because I remember very vividly during the combine saying, why didn't he run? He's supposed to be one of the athletic tight ends in this draft. Why didn't he run? And anytime a perfectly healthy guy doesn't run, it's a big, big red flag. Like, uh-oh, somebody's hiding something. And of course, he was hiding the fact that he was slow. We knew that. Once he didn't run, I said, oh, you're slow. He proceeded to run like a 4. I think he ran like a 4.8 something, 4.9, whatever it was. And so everybody kind of freaked on him. This was the guy that we thought was a second round pick, ended up being a third rounder. Ravens, I think the Ravens took him in the fourth round, if I'm not mistaken. Stopped his little bit of a slide. He was supposed to be a day 2 guy. He ended up being a day 3 guy, if I'm not mistaken. He looked good. Made a big grab, mossed on somebody, snatched the ball away. Also had a pass out in the flats where he shook the draws off a defender. I mean, broke him off something proper. And then proceeded to make another guy miss and get up the field. And so it was a nice debut for Isaiah Likely, as if the Ravens need any more tight ends, right? They're a tight end factory out there. Well, add Isaiah Likely to the list, as he likely is going to be a really good player for the Ravens. And then again, small sample size, but that was the thing that was disappointing. Was like, yeah, this guy can play. And at the tight end position, it's one of those positions, one of the few positions on the field where you don't have to be a burner to be effective. You can see that with Isaiah Likely. Then finally, Shamar Bridges, Benjamin Victor, Mekhi Polk, they're all putting in their bids to make the roster. They were all really solid in their debut in 2022. These guys all offer size, something that the Ravens really don't have at the receiver position. So I think one of these guys is going to be likely to make the football team. I don't think 2 of the 3 are going to make it. Don't think they have enough space for 2 of these guys, but I do think they have space for one of these guys. And all of these guys are 6'3" or better. So they could use one because the rest of their receivers are pretty small. So that's interesting there. We'll see what the Ravens decide to do. On to the next game. And of course, Baltimore won the football game. On to the next game. This was one of the more entertaining preseason games. It's rare that entertaining and preseason go in the same sentence, but Falcons at Lions was probably one of the better games of the weekend, start to finish. got off to a great start. Both offenses came out, went right down the field and scored in impressive fashion. Started with Marcus Mariota and the Atlanta Falcons. Man, was that an impressive opening drive or what? Mariota, 2 of 2 for 36 yards, 3 rushes for 23 yards and a touchdown. He was extra sharp. He looked like what I envisioned him looking like when I said, hey, last offseason, hey, I'm interested. If the Raiders don't want him, I'll take him in Washington. Problem is, with the way he played on that first possession, there's no way he's going to stay healthy for more than, 5 or 6 weeks at a time, right? That was beautiful to watch. It was classic Marcus Mariota, read option, pull it, take off and run, get to the outside, threaten the edge, bootlegs, get outside the pocket. He had a beautiful strike. I mean, this was a beautiful pass on the move to his right to the rookie wide receiver, Drake London. I mean, it couldn't have been thrown any better, and it was tight coverage. And it's like he walked up and handed it to him. Mariota was sharp in this football game. And then he scores on a rushing touchdown, dives for the pylon, gets in, and his night was done. That's how you draw it up if you're a head coach. You want your guy to go out there, get a possession, score a touchdown, and then sit down. He was outstanding. Speaking of Drake London, he had the 1 catch for 23 yards on that bootleg and proceeded to injure his knee on that same play. Did not return to the game. Don't think it's anything serious. Falcons say, hey, we're good. He won't practice this week. More likely than not, he won't play in the game in week 2 of the preseason, which is perfectly fine. But they want to be very cautious with their prized rookie wide receiver because he's going to be a huge part of their offense because, as we know, in Atlanta, they do not have a ton of viable options at receiver. So his presence there, along with Kyle Pitts, is imperative for that offense to be successful. And then you sprinkle in a little bit of Cordero Patterson, and that's what the offense is really going to be in Atlanta. How about Desmond Ridder, the rookie quarterback out of Cincinnati that we feel like is going to be the future at the quarterback position for the Falcons? I thought he was solid. Look, it wasn't a great statistical game. He was 10 of 22, right? So a ton of incompletions, but he used his legs. I thought he showed the ability. I thought he showed a little bit more athleticism than I was giving him credit for. I knew this guy was an athlete. I was like, I think you're more of a ACC or AAC athlete, not necessarily an NFL athlete. We'll see. He actually showed me he's an NFL athlete. He's a better athlete than I gave him credit for. And so there's something there. I've always said this. Desmond Ridder is a guy you can win football games with. I don't see him being a guy that you can win Super Bowls with. But you can win a bunch of regular season games. I've said this. He's Alex Smith. He's Ryan Tannehill. You put an offense around him, a run game. He will manage the shit out of the football game, and his legs will allow him to extend plays and make things off schedule, just like Alex Smith, just like Ryan Tannehill. And you can win a lot of football games. You can go 12-5. You can go 11-6 consistently with a guy like Desmond Ridder. And that's kind of what I saw out of this game, out of this performance. And then he throws the game-winning touchdown. Does Desmond Ridder. Again, it was a very entertaining game start to finish. You go to Detroit side of things, beautiful opening drive. I told you both teams came out firing on all cylinders, went right down the field. Jared Goff, good start. I think he was like 4 of 6, 4 of 5, right down the field. Boom, boom, bang, end zone, touchdown. A touchdown run by DeAndre Swift. He looks to be in midseason form, does DeAndre Swift. And quietly, the Lions have a lot of stuff. None of it elite, right? Not until they get the young kid from Alabama back into the mix. Nothing elite. I really do like DeAndre Swift, however. He does have elite traits, but they just got a bunch of stuff. Amon-Ra St. Brown, TJ Hawkinson. Again, none of that stuff is elite, but it's really good stuff. Very, very usable stuff. So they went right down the field, scored a touchdown, and Jared Goff's night was over. Aiden Hutchinson, second play of the game. I brought this up at the top of the show. Boom. Tackle for loss. Just to make his presence felt. And the crowd went nuts. You would have thought that they just clinched their ticket to the NFC Championship game, which would be played in Detroit with that play he made. They went off when he made that play. He stood up. He celebrated. He looks like he's going to be good. But Jeff Okudah, he didn't do anything of note. I just wrote his name down because I'm like, this has got to be the year that if he's going to be something other than a bust, this is the year he's got to A, stay healthy, and B, actually do something. So this, to me, is the year Jeff Okudah is going to have to show, did we waste a pick, or do we need to have more patience with you? Give us a reason to have patience. Give us a reason to be optimistic, or else I'm thinking he's on the line to be cut after this year, because they're not cutting him this year, right? But if he has another injury-plagued season or another lackluster performance once he's out there, I think this is when you say, all right, enough of this with Jeff. So anyway, that was a fun game. Falcons get the win at the end. Cleveland at Jacksonville. This one was interesting, really, because of Deshaun Watson. The Browns decided they were going to play him in the preseason. Look, they don't know what's going to become of his situation, whether it's going to remain a 6-game suspension or if it's going to be expanded to 12 or possibly the entire season. They don't know what's going to happen, but they're just preparing themselves in the event that it's just a 6-game suspension and that he'll be back at some point. That's whatever the case may be. This is going to be the environment for Deshaun Watson at every game, including maybe even home games in Cleveland, but specifically on the road. It's going to be rough and brutal. It reminds me of the Michael Vick situation. You're just going to have people that are going to make sure you hear it every single time you're on the road. And they had chants for him, and they're screaming obscenities at him. I don't think he can hear any of that stuff. At the end of the day, it's wearing on him. You can tell. He did an interview where he apologized for the first time, where he actually acknowledged that there may have been some harm done to these women. And so I think it's starting to wear on him. His play in this game, and I remember bringing this up, and people said, oh, he's going to be fine. I said, man ain't played football in 2 years. I mean, and if he gets suspended again this year, I mean, what are we talking about? Like, this could get to a point where, is this even the same Deshaun Watson? Clearly, it's a preseason game. Clearly, there was rust. It was awful. It was an awful debut. Let's call it what it was, a spade. He was 1 of 5 for 7 yards. Now, 2 of the incompletions were drops. Anthony Schwartz can't catch. Okay, I wrote that down in my notes. He was horrible. But Watson looked shaken, visibly shaken. Like his first pass, he bootlegs to his left, and he airmails it over a wide open wide receiver by at least 5 yards over his head. I mean, luckily enough for him, there wasn't a safety that just happened to be deep out there waiting for that overthrow, because it was a terrible pass. And he skipped one to David Njoku on another throw. He wasn't his normal self, and so this wasn't a good start for him, but it's the first preseason game. He's getting his feet wet. You're dealing with all the things that are going on. It's not a great situation, to be honest, if you're Cleveland, but this is the thing I've said all along throughout this whole situation. The Browns probably look like assholes for giving him an opportunity, giving him the contract that they did, setting the contract up the way that they did so that he's really not punished. That's why the NFL, they're trying to go after a substantial amount of money, really the money that they feel like he stole last year by not playing a single snap for the Texans, yet earned, I think, over $10 million or whatever it was. So they're trying to find him that money so that they can recoup that. Whatever the case may be, I said this about the Browns. This move that they made wasn't for this upcoming season. Like, I think even if he is only suspended 6 games, it's a lost season. You're not going to have the type of production from Deshaun Watson and this Browns football team that you're looking for, because it's just too much going on. Time will heal this situation, as it always does, but it won't be this year. So I think the Browns are looking at this with the long-term view of, hey, we got Deshaun Watson. He's 25, 26 years old. We're not worried about this year necessarily. We're talking about the year after that. This kid's going to be phenomenal for us, and we'll be just fine. And we'll take the lumps now. Everybody's going to beat us up. They're going to kill him, and that's fine. But after all of this dust settles, smoke clears, and people start to talk about other things, he's going to be back playing football, similar to Ben Roethlisberger once upon a time, similar to Michael Vick once upon a time. And this kid's going to be awesome for us. So it was rough. Watching him out there, he looked uncomfortable. Jerome Ford did look comfortable. This is a guy that I really liked. I talked about him ad nauseum during the draft process. Is a guy that I really liked out of Cincinnati, former Alabama running back, transferred to Cincinnati, was outstanding for the Bearcats. He looked really good, as if the Cleveland Browns need another running back to play well for them. Kareem Hunt wants out reportedly because they won't give him a contract extension, but Jerome Ford looks perfectly fine to replace him if anything should go down with that situation, which I don't think it will at this current moment. And you go to the Jacksonville Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence is gaining confidence. You can see him, the wheels turning, the gears starting to turn with him in that offense. He looks comfortable. They're using him like he's supposed to be utilized, read option. And you don't have to run Trevor Lawrence a ton. Just like Marcus Mariota in Atlanta, Mitchell Trubisky in Pittsburgh, and all of these athletically gifted quarterbacks, Justin Fields in Chicago. You don't have to run them a ton. There just needs to be a threat that he could pull it on read option and take off, and it opens up these gaping holes for the running back. And so early in the game, he pulls out a read option, takes off, picks up like 12, and then the next time he gives it to Travis Etienne, and there's a massive hole. And that's all you have to do. And then now you get him outside the tackle box, and you get him moving, and you get him some completions outside off of some play action fake and some of these different reads. And you can see he's starting to gain confidence. He's gaining confidence with guys like Zay Jones, and he threw the touchdown pass to Evan Ingram. So there's a lot of stuff there for him to utilize. This is a really good offense for him. They're going to be dangerous this year if they can get consistency out of this group and the defense play well enough. Travis Etienne, man, he looks explosive. His first carry, I was like, shit. Like, slow down, man. Like, it felt like he was moving at a rate of speed faster than everybody else on the field. Like, that first run looked like a dude that had all this pent-up energy that hadn't played a game in nearly 2 years. And so he was ready. You could tell he was ready to run it. And, man, it looked fast. He looks like he's going to be a problem this year. Jake Luton stinks. And I think the Jacksonville Jaguars agree with me because they released him today. I was watching the game like, why is he out there? Get Jake Luton off of my damn screen, please. Yeah, they said, I agree. And we'll make that happen ASAP. Anyway, Jets at the Eagles. This was probably the most noteworthy game of the first week of the preseason because for all of the wrong reasons. So let's start with the Jets. They were the road team. Zach Wilson's injury. That's a scary situation. We're still waiting for confirmation that his season is not over. Now, Robert Saleh, after the game, said, we think his ACL is still intact. We're not sure. The MRI revealed that the ACL was, in fact, still intact. However, he had a bone bruise, and he also had something wrong with his meniscus, which was going to require surgery. Well, now they're saying that until the doctor actually physically goes in his knee and is able to assess the damage, they don't know how severe it is. This happened on a run by Zach Wilson where he got out of the pocket. He was picking up some yardage. He cut back against the grain, and his knee buckled under the weight. And you never want to see a non-contact injury. The first thing people think of is one of two things. Either your ACL just went on you or you just blew out your Achilles. Either way, it's not a good look. There was so much hype surrounding the Jets going into the preseason, into training camp, and this would be a deflating blow to them if he is not able to come back in short order. The initial prognosis was 2 to 4 weeks. He will have the surgery. They'll trim the meniscus, and he'll heal, and he'll be ready before we get out of the first quarter of the season. That was the initial prognosis, but that hasn't been confirmed yet. It's an ugly situation. First of all, you never want to see one of the young boys go down. Then you never want to see a team lose their quarterback in preseason. And then you never want to see a team that's been downtrodden like the Jets, who have had, who have hope with all of the moves that they made, the draft that they just put forth. You never want to see this happen to their quarterback. So That's a rough situation. But he threw a pick before he got injured too. So I was like, ugh, that's nasty. I like the running backs though that they have in New York, and which is why they drafted Brees Hall. Michael P. Ryan is a nice piece. Everybody forgot about him once they drafted Brees Hall. Michael Carter is still there. That's a nice little trio of backs that they have in New York with the Jets. And then that was a dumb hit. That was the other big, topic of discussion after this game was the dumb hit by Quincy Williams, which is Quinnen Williams' brother. Jalen Hurts is every bit of 2.5, 3 steps out of bounds, and this guy comes out of nowhere and lights him up. And Nick Sirianni lost it. All right, he lost it on the sideline. He was livid, and he had every right to be, because I don't want to call it dirty. What it reminded me of, and I say this a lot of times with these defenders, is they run a long way and then they get there and the guy's out of bounds and they're like, yo, I ran way too far to not get a piece of this dude. So I'm going to get my money's worth. I just ran 20 yards over here for him to run out of bounds. Nah, I ain't going out like that. And so he was like, he going to take this shoulder. And I'm like, bro, come on now. The man is way out of bounds. It's a preseason game. What are you doing? Okay. You need to wash your face and get your mind right if you think that's the right thing to do there in that situation. And to me, that's a microcosm of the Jets. I know it's a preseason game, but that's dumb football. That's why you're 3-14. That's why you're picking second in the draft, third in the draft every single year. That's why you're a top 5 team every year, because you do stupid stuff like that leads to penalties that hurt your football team. The Eagles don't need your help. They're a better football team than you. And that jump-started that drive, and they ultimately went right down the field and scored a touchdown. Don't do that. Don't do it. Meanwhile, the Eagles, gorgeous touchdown drive to start the game. An opening drive that was flawless. Jalen Hurts, 6 of 6, 80 yards, touchdown. He actually had a touchdown run that was called back due to a holding penalty. He was like, fine, don't worry about it. He then finds his tight end, Dallas Goedert, and then he jumps in backwards into the end zone on some Marshawn Lynch shit. Only thing he didn't do was hold his crotch while he was doing it. That was as clean of an opening drive as it gets. It reminded me of the opening drive that the Eagles had in their preseason game last year versus the Steelers in week 1, where I think they threw a screen to Quez Watkins, and he ended up running for a touchdown. I don't know if that was the first possession, but I remember that first possession, they went right down the field and they scored, and then Quez Watkins ultimately had a screen that he smoked the rest of the defense and ran for a touchdown. They looked clean in that football game early. Kaiser White had an interception. A lot of people forget about Kaiser White. Lost in the sauce of all of the moves that the Eagles made offensively, defensively, especially on the defensive side of the football, whether it's James Bradbury or it's the edge rusher, Hassan Reddick. It's easy to forget about Kaiser White, but he had to remind them very quickly, hey, I'm here and I do make a difference. He had the pick of Zach Wilson before he got injured. And Gardner Minshew looked well, looked solid as well, and so they've got a solid backup situation in Philadelphia, do the Eagles. Arizona and Cincinnati, they passed on the game, so will I pass on their game. I have nothing to say there. Green Bay at San Francisco. This was all about Jordan Love. Had Jordan Love not been here, then it would have been the Trey Lance show. But Jordan Love was there, and they got to find out about this kid. He's starting. There's an odor starting to resonate. That's starting to permeate the air from Jordan Love, and it isn't pleasant. Okay. And I think that's why they did what they did with Aaron Rodgers. If they really thought this was the next coming of fill in the blank, like if they thought this was a Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck situation, they would have moved on from Aaron Rodgers and he'd be playing. But I think they realized, I think we made a mistake on this one. And some of it wasn't his fault in this game. Jordan Love was 13 of 24, 176 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. The 3 interceptions, 2 of them were sketchy, bouncing off of receivers that could have caught the football into the arms of waiting 49er defenders. One of them was egregious. Like, bruh, what are you doing? What are you looking at? What are you trying to accomplish here with that throw? So there's like this Jordan Love right now for me. He's not checking off the boxes. He's an athlete. We saw a little bit of that in this game. I do like that about him. He throws a beautiful deep ball for a touchdown on his I think it was his second possession of the game. You like to see that, but there's just too many blunders, and this was a problem for him when he was in college, at Utah State. I think it was Utah State. Yeah, this was a problem for him. Or was it Nevada? I think he was in Nevada. I think he was Nevada. I always try to put him at Utah State. I think he was at Nevada. He was at Utah State. Carson Strong was the Nevada kid. This was an issue for him at Utah State. Turning the football over, playing hero ball, trying to do too much. I still like Jordan Love, but he's starting to wear thin on me. I'll say that. I need to see more, but I didn't like what I saw in the game last year against Kansas City when he got an opportunity when Aaron Rodgers couldn't play when he had COVID. I don't like what I see here. This stinks right here. Romeo Doubs, the rookie receiver out of Nevada, he looks like he's going to fill in, nicely for the Green Bay Packers. They lost a couple of receivers last year. Obviously, the most notable Devontae Adams, but a lot of people forget they lost MVS as well. He's now in Kansas City. Romeo Doubs looks like he's going to fill in, but I need him to be consistent catching the football. And that was something that plagued him at Nevada as well. There were some drops. There was a couple of drops in the game against the 49ers, but there were also some good catches, and then there was the deep ball for the touchdown. So there's a lot to like here. And so I think Aaron Rodgers is going to really enjoy Romeo Doubs. Amari Rodgers is a receiver they drafted out of Clemson last year, did absolutely nothing for the Packers. They need him to step up this year. They got him returning kicks. He had a nice kickoff return in this game. They need him to also show up as a wide receiver too. So I thought he did some solid things in this particular game. They need him to step up this year. This is a young receiving core. He's young too. But those other guys, Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs and Samori Toure, all these guys are rookies. You can't expect all of them to come in and help you right away. So they need a second-year guy that's been in this offense like Amari Rodgers to step up. Meanwhile, you go to the 49ers, and Trey Lance was electric. Trey area! 4 of 5, 92 yards, a touchdown, a couple of nice scrambles to elude pressure, pick up some yardage. Had the pass over the top to Danny Gray. We'll talk about him in a second for a touchdown, and that was his afternoon. Sharp, in and out, and I think I said this when we were having this debate whether it was Mac Jones, Mac Jones, the mickety Mac, or Trey Lance in San Francisco. And I said Trey Lance fits Kyle Shanahan's offense to a T. Now, the thing about Kyle Shanahan is he likes his quarterbacks to be cerebral. He likes the Matt Ryans of the world. Mac Jones would have fit his offense well and maybe even fit Kyle's way of wanting to coach and play maybe better than Trey Lance. But to me, the offense as it's constructed, the way it's supposed to be executed, with Kyle Shanahan, I think he might have preferred Mac Jones. Like, I think that's actually legit. If you ask his dad, Mike, he would take Trey Lance all day, every day, twice on Sundays, Mondays, Thursdays, and some Saturdays. Because that's that Jay Cutler element. The guy with athleticism that can get out of the pocket, Jake Plummer, that's what he's looking for. That guy that can get out of the pocket, can be athletic, can throw on the move. That's Trey Lance. That's what that offense is built upon to me. You run it with that stretch zone run blocking scheme, and then you come out of the backside of that thing, and then you set up shop, 8-9 yards behind center, often probably more so behind the tackle, and then you launch it 50, 60 yards down the field to a wide open receiver because you've been running it. And that's what Trey Lance can do. So I think he's going to be perfect for this offense. Danny Gray was a guy that a lot of people were excited about in the draft process. He's a blazer out of SMU, 4.33, 40 type guy. Can pick him up, put him down, and you saw it in this game. Had a deep ball from Trey Lance down the sideline, caught it and smoked the corner for a touchdown. He looks legit. Like, he's going to give them – Kyle Shanahan has wanted that kind of speed in San Francisco since he got there. Deebo Samuel is not that kind of a guy. Deebo Samuel is a different type of player. That's why they went out and got Marquise Goodwin. That's why they went out and got the kid from Washington, Pettis, Dante Pettis. This is why, because he wanted speed, somebody that can go over the top, take the top off the defense, make big plays. And he hasn't been able to find that guy consistently. That's why they drafted Brandon Ayuk. I think he might have found his man in Danny Gray. We'll see. One game, small sample size, but boy, did he look the part or what. And then the defense forced 3 interceptions. I just talked about Jordan Love throwing 3 picks. Defense showed up, forced 3 interceptions. That's always a welcome sight if you're a defensive coordinator. So Carolina at Washington. Obviously, I had a lot of interest in this game. And this was a fun game, too. I will say that this week had some entertaining games. Seattle, Pittsburgh, very entertaining game. Carolina, Washington. It wasn't an entertaining game throughout, but the ending was very entertaining. Same with the Detroit-Atlanta game. Very entertaining football game. There were some games that came down to the wire, and you could see these guys fighting for a roster spot, competing at a very high level. So this was one of those games where it got interesting late. So you start with Carolina. Baker Mayfield got the start. Obviously, there's a quarterback competition happening in Carolina as we speak, but really it's Baker Mayfield's job to win. If he wants it, it's his. And he didn't look like a guy that was had just gotten there 3 weeks ago. It didn't look like a guy that was, in an offense that he was uncomfortable with. And they didn't even have their primary guys out there. There was no DJ Moore. There was no Christian McCaffrey in this game. And he looked comfortable. He went out there. He performed well, took them down the field. You would like the drive to end in the touchdown. It ended in a field goal attempt, but he was under duress a couple of times. He hung in the pocket, delivered throws to convert on 3rd down. So I thought Baker Mayfield showed well in his debut as a Carolina Panther. I would have liked to have seen him more, honestly. But again, my guy Derek B had to remind me, bro, he just got here. Like, there's only so much that he knows and that he can do. And I'm like, you're right. You know what? That you're asking a lot of a guy that just got here. The fact that he was able to go out there and do what he did in the amount of time that he's been there, it speaks to his ability to digest an offense. Sam Darnold came in afterwards. He was solid, threw a touchdown pass after Antonio Gibson fumble. We'll talk about that a little bit here in a second. And so Darnold comes in, throws a touchdown pass to Rashard Higgins, and Darnold was fine. I mean, really, he didn't do much. He was, 2 of 3. That touchdown pass was the highlight of his afternoon. They got him out of there quick, and it really was the P.J. Walker show after that. I mean, that's really the crux of, what you got from the Panthers in this football game. Matt Corral didn't move the needle. He got in there pretty late. And, by the time he got in there, their offense was stagnant. But he did take them down the field after they relinquished the lead. When he came into the game, they were up 20-6. Sam Howell came in and proceeded to take Washington down the field twice, score 2 touchdowns, take the lead, 21-20. And then Matt Corral got the football, aided by penalties, but nonetheless, he did his job, got him in the field goal range. They kicked the game-winning field goal. But Matt Corral didn't do anything that wowed you in that game. I want to see more of Matt Corral. PJ Walker is their 3rd quarterback right now, but Matt Corral is the future. So I would like to see more of Matt Corral, less of PJ Walker. If you know what PJ Walker is, let's see the young fella, Matt Corral, more of him. So on the Washington side of things, Carson Wentz, I thought he was sharp. I thought he was in rhythm and in sync with his targets. That's been a big topic of discussion, is the inaccuracies, which really bothered me that was even a conversation and he looked good in this game. Tossed it around 10 of 13, 74 yards, highly efficient. The first couple of possessions, obviously you get a 3 and out. He took a shot down the field. I love it. Gave a guy a chance down the field on the first possession. The second possession ended in a fumble. And then the third possession, he takes the offense all the way down the field, and they get in the end zone on a 1-yard touchdown run by Brian Robinson. Why was Brian Robinson in with the first team? I'll explain. Antonio Gibson, who had a fumbling issue last year, led all non-quarterbacks in the league with fumbles last season, fumbled again, which is why one of the big reasons why Washington drafted Brian Robinson out of Alabama in the 3rd round in the first place. Well, Robinson gets an opportunity, makes the most of it, was outstanding on that 3rd drive, his first drive of the game, helped Washington get down the field, caught a screen, had a couple of nice runs in the run game, and then capped it off with a 1-yard touchdown run. And so great debut for him in his rookie season and debut as a Commander. Really, I thought the defensive line was outstanding. A lot of pressure on the Panthers, quarterbacks throughout, and it was a good debut for the Commanders. So, Kansas City at Chicago. I think the Chiefs do it the right way. It seems like it's fun to play for Andy Reid. It's just me. I don't know. I could be wrong about that. But Patrick Mahomes and company, they're a well-oiled machine offensively. My God. They made it look so easy on that opening possession. Mahomes was 6 of 7 for 60 yards and a touchdown. They went right down the field, boat raced that Bears defense. And before you know it, he had spread it around a little bit. They're going to be just fine. I said this already. They're going to be just fine offensively. No, they don't have Tyreek Hill anymore, but what they did was they essentially went out and got 18 dudes and said, hey, we can't be any worse. When we lost one dude, but we replaced his production with 3 or 4 dudes that we feel really good about. And so Juju Smith-Schuster, I don't think he had a touch in this game, but he's out there. They drafted Sky Moore. I don't think he had a touch with the first team, but that's a guy that they're going to be counting on at some point this season. They went out and signed MVS Marquez Valdez-Scantling from the Green Bay Packers. He looked good. He looked comfortable in the offense. I think they're going to do some good things. He had a catch on that touchdown drive. And then they still got Travis Kelce, and they got Blake Bell, who caught the touchdown on the tight end screen. And they got Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Like, they're loaded. They're still loaded, and they still have Patrick Mahomes. They're going to be just fine. And that drive was just a quick reminder that, hey, we're still the Chiefs. I know that the Chargers are the sheep pick to be, a big-time noisemaker in the AFC. Russell Wilson coming over from Seattle to Denver. They're a sheep pick to win the Super Bowl. Hey, don't forget about us. That's all. It was like that was a warning shot. Pop. Just one shot. Chris Jones is a beast. Had a sack, had another pressure of Justin Fields. Man, is he good. Eric Reed, kicking field goals, man. Keep in mind, this is a safety. This man, I watched a clip of him kicking a 50-yard field goal in practice. So they send him out there to kick an extra point. And he bangs it home, man. Like, that's a great luxury to have a guy that is a non-kicker on your roster that you could actually, in a pinch, I don't know if they would trust him in a regular season game to go out there, but if something were to happen to their field goal kicker, Harrison Butker, generally teams are screwed. If your field goal kicker gets injured in a game, he pulls a hamstring or a quad gets tight, you're screwed. You got to go for 2 now. The Chiefs don't have to go for 2. And he could. I think he could actually kick field goals. Now, I'd be interested to know how he kicks from different hash marks, right? Like everything that you put it in practice is probably down the middle. The extra point you can pick where you want it, middle hash or other hash. I'd be interested to see if he could kick from all 3 spots: left hash, middle, right hash. That's fun. That's fun, and it's intriguing because now you have an extra immediate emergency kicker if need be in Kansas City. Meanwhile, the Bears, poor Justin Fields. He was under duress quite a bit in this game. That offensive line stinks. He didn't look terrible, though. But he looks like a guy that's going to be running for his life for much of the season. And I've said this already. The Bears didn't do nearly enough to help him from a skill position standpoint. And the offensive line is a joke. And a lot of the pieces that it's literally, if the offensive line to me feels like it's your mom's birthday and you totally forgot. And your sister calls you and says, hey, what'd you get mom for her birthday? You like, and you run to the nearest corner store, like Kroger. Kroger doesn't have shit to get your mom for her birthday. But you get her some raggedy ass shirt from the clothing department at Kroger, and you get her a card, and you're like, hey, happy birthday, mom. It's trash, for real. And it's some last minute shit that you picked up right around the corner. That's what they did with this offensive line. Riley Reef, last minute. The guy that Chris Jones beat, Schofield, they just picked his ass up off the street, seems like, from the Titans. He stinks. Like, come on, man. What are you doing out here? Like, this is the first round pick cornerback we're talking about here, and you're treating him like he's some Joe Schmo that you're protecting, like he's Andy Dalton from last year. This is pathetic. Then the receivers, God bless Darnell Mooney. If not for Darnell Mooney, they don't have shit at receiver in Chicago. He went up and made a hell of a grab in this football game. I love me some Darnell Mooney. And if I'm playing against the Bears, it'll be anybody but Darnell Mooney. I'm double teaming his ass. He won't beat me. You know, let Daz Newsome beat me. Okay. Let Tajay Sharp, he made a great catch in this game. Let Tajay Sharp beat me. I dare Tajay Sharp to beat me. It won't be Darnell Mooney. He's the only guy on their team that can beat me. It's a joke. And then the field conditions, that might have been the biggest conversation leaving this game. Like, the field looked beat up. It looked like some high schoolers played a game, then a college team played a game, and then they say, hey, NFL, y'all get whatever's left. There were divots all over the place. It looked like they were playing on sand. It looked like FedEx Field circa 2012. It's terrible. Soldier Field looked to be in rough shape. J.C. Treader, who was the leader of the NFLPA, I don't even know if he's got a job right now. He was on Twitter. He was on socials talking about the poor nature of that field and the condition that it was in. You can hurt guys playing on fields like that. Anyway, the Bears are going to stink. They're going to be one of the worst teams in football, I think. We'll see what happens. Indy at Buffalo. This was an interesting game. If Matt Ryan weren't playing, I would have not tuned into this because the Bills, they have a lot of young stuff, and it was actually fun to watch their young stuff, but they didn't play Josh Allen. They didn't play any of their guys, and they don't need to, but that's what I'm looking for, right? Either you've got some young boys that I'm interested in, which I don't think I'm really that interested in any of the young boys in Buffalo, or you play your veterans, you play your starters. They didn't do that. But they had some interesting young boys that I ran into that I forgot that they had, and I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot about Khair Elam. Oh, yeah, he's going to fit in nice in Buffalo. We'll get to that in a second. Let's start with Indy. They were on the road. Matt Ryan made his debut in Indy, and there's been a lot made of the Indianapolis Colts this offseason, obviously trading away Carson Wentz and everything that came with that. Me being a Washington fan, I've been dealing with the Carson Wentz saga all offseason and how they kind of just disrespected that man all offseason as they traded him away. And even as he was gone, they still had his name in their mouth. And so everybody was like, oh, Indianapolis is a very well-respected organization. And if they got rid of Carson Wentz, he must have not been able to get it done. And I'm like, you do understand that this is the fifth starting quarterback in as many years in Indianapolis, right? Like Chris Ballard is bitching up when it comes to finding a quarterback. He refuses to draft a guy. He keeps trying to hit these streets to find a veteran. They're not going to win anything with Matt Ryan, just like you weren't going to win anything with Phillip Rivers, okay? And so Matt Ryan goes out there, and he looked like Matt Ryan. He looked like the Matt Ryan I saw last year. A little skittish, a little scared back there. just enough moxie and poise to elude a rusher here, dump it down to the running back. Nyheim Hines, I think he had 37 catches in this game. Nyheim Hines is going to have 70 catches, and he will lead the Colts in receptions this year if he's healthy. That's what you're going to get out of Matt Ryan. This offensive line is not great at pass protecting. I watched their best offensive lineman and Quentin Nelson get bulldozed by former Washington football team, Redskin commander Tim Settle. Like, just dump trucked him into the lap of Matt Ryan, who got rid of the football. I don't think Matt Ryan's going to be great in Indianapolis. I've said this for many years now. They don't have a great supporting cast around whomever's at quarterback. You know, it's funny how they try to talk about Carson Wentz, but there's not a lot of talent in Indianapolis. They got some stuff. I like Michael Pittman. I love Nyheim Hines. Paris Campbell can't stay healthy to save his life. He had a drop in this game. They drafted Alec Pierce. I'm intrigued by him. I actually think he might be good for them. We'll see. Ali Mo Cox is pretty cool at the tight end position, but like, none of these dudes are needle movers. Like, Michael Pittman is the only true threat that you have right now. And again, if Paris Campbell can stay healthy, I think he can provide them with something, but he's never healthy. Anyway, the debut was marginal at best. Nyheim Hines is a beast. I wrote that down in my notes. I love Nyheim Hines. God, he's good. And then the defense, this is the thing that's going to save Indianapolis. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year, but this is the thing that's going to keep them in the playoff discussion all year long, their defense. Even though Matt Eberflus is gone, it's still an opportunistic defense. They forced 3 turnovers in this game defensively. Did this Colts defense without Darius Leonard, the maniac. So if it's one thing the Colts know how to do, it's they know how to get their hands on the ball. Pause. And they showed that in this game again. You go to the Bills, their young guys look ready, and they're a Super Bowl contending team, so the young boys have to step in and be ready. They don't have a runway like some of these other teams with young players that aren't expected to make the Super Bowl. You got to come into Buffalo and be ready to contribute. If you're Kaiir Elam and they draft you in the first round, you got to be ready to go right now. I can't wait on you to get your shit together and you're ready next year. This team is ready to win a Super Bowl now. They're ready to compete for a chip. So Kaiir Elam and Khalil Shakir both look good. The rookie receiver out of Boise State. I think both of those guys are going to be heavy contributors in their rookie season for a team that looks like a Super Bowl contender. How about the punt god, Matt Araiza? I mean, yikes. They don't call him the punt god for nothing. 82-yard punt for a touchback in this game. And if you watch him kick it, it doesn't even look like he smoked it. It looked like he got, he just kicked it regular. And that thing just took off and exploded off his foot. Unbelievable. Zach Moss and Boogie Basham, 2 young players for the Bills that I think they would like to see more out of, especially Zach Moss. I mean, Boogie Basham's going into his 2nd year, so I think the expectations are going to be heightened for him a bit. But, rookie season is what it is. 2nd year, let's see if you take a leap. He had a strip sack in this game, did Boogie Basham. They scooped that and scored it. One of their rookies, I want to say it was Terrell Bernard from Baylor, the linebacker that I liked, that they drafted, scooped it and scored it. So I talked about the Colts being opportunistic. Look at the Bills defense being opportunistic and forcing a turnover. Again, all of these are young boys. Boogie Basham, Terrell Bernard, forcing the action here. So there's so much stuff in Buffalo, so much stuff to be excited about, so much young talent. It's a fun group, fun to watch the Bills run around and do stuff. Seattle at Pittsburgh. This was a fun game, start to finish too, because Seattle, it's interesting. They're going to stink, okay? But they don't know that they're supposed to stink. They're rebuilding, but nobody told them that they're actually rebuilding. So they're actually out competing, trying to win ball games, and they don't know their role yet. Give them 8 weeks into the season and they're 2-6, 1-7, and they'll realize, oh, we're trash. And then they'll fall in line. But right now, they don't know that they're trash. And they're not accustomed to being garbage because they've had Russell Wilson. They're going to find out what life without Russ looks like. And then, again, they'll fall in line and realize what they are and where they fall in the NFL pantheon. But right now, they're scrapping, right? They're going to fight. So they started Geno Smith. Geno. Oh, Geno. Oh, no. I thought they were going to start Drew Lock. They started Geno, and it makes sense. Geno's been in the offense. They're more comfortable with him, and he looks fine. He looks like he understands what they are asking of him. And so I think they started the right guy. Drew Lock came in, did some good things, but I think Geno Smith is the right man for the job. So he got the start. He scored a touchdown on his final possession, a rushing touchdown. I thought he had a solid, performance. What I've come to expect from Geno. He's going to play well, and then there's going to be that one moment in the game, and he's going to F up. That's typical Geno Smith in typical Geno Smith fashion. DJ Dallas, man, what a good showing from him. I like DJ Dallas. I've always liked DJ Dallas, even coming from the U. He was outstanding in this game. They drafted Kenneth Walker the third. He looked in this game. This is his first game. I'm not going to kill him. How about Boye Mafe? Okay. One of my favorite names to say out of this 2022 NFL draft. Boye Mafe. Mafioso. 2 sacks in this game, including a 4th down sack late in the ball game that should have given Seattle a chance to win this thing. But typical Drew Lock comes in and immediately makes a boo-boo and gave it right back to the Steelers. It wasn't his fault. There was a hot rusher coming off the edge. Nobody touched him. Drew Lock never saw him, and he fumbled. And then Dareke Young. I think I said that right. Dareke Young. I think it's Dareke. I like this guy. I want to see more. I'm intrigued. Okay. 7th round pick, big kid. I want to see more of him. See what he's about. Steelers. I was so intrigued by the whole Steelers dynamic because, okay, Mitchell Trubisky, I got a soft spot for Mitchell Trubisky, man. I don't know what it is about Mitchell. His mama named him Mitchell. I'm going to call him Mitchell. And then I said, okay, and I want to see Kenny Pickett. The guy in the middle is the one I care nothing about, okay? Spare me with the Mason Rudolph. But I wanted to see the first guy, and I wanted to see the last guy. So Mitchell looked good. Like, this is the enigma that is Mitchell Trubisky. You can win football games with Mitchell Trubisky. But there is this passive aggressiveness with Mitch when shit gets tough where he's just like, I don't care for real. Like, Mitch, it's 4th and 3. I need you to dive for the first down. And Mitch is like, I'm going out of bounds 1 yard short of the sticks. Deal with it. There's always been this lack of urgency with Mitchell for me that I'm just like, yeah, you frustrate me, but he's talented. And Mitch like I said, another one of these guys, just run one read option. That's all you got to do, right? Just to keep the defense honest, show that my quarterback has some wheels and he's not afraid to use them. Mitch was using his legs, showed some athleticism, had a scramble, slid, had a couple of bootlegs, got outside the pocket, made some good throws, and then the touchdown pass, he rolls to his left, after the play initially breaks down, gets outside the pocket to his left, finds a wide open Gunnar Olszewski, who I got him in my notes. We'll talk about him in a second. And that was his night. And I was like, damn, Mitch looked good. Mitchell. Mama named him Mitchell. I'm going to call him Mitchell. So then George Pickens. He was the guy. He was the buzz name of this year's draft at the receiver position where everybody was like, hey, don't take a receiver in the first round. You can wait, trade back, take George Pickens in the second round. He's going to be a beast. And I was like, I like this kid. He's just got to stay healthy. And I said, when he went to Pittsburgh, I said, damn, that is the perfect spot for him. The Steelers, I couldn't have picked George Pickens up and placed him in a better location for his skill set. And he looked good in this game. He scored a touchdown. A little bit of a push-off, got away with it. Hey, they don't call it. It ain't a penalty, right? So he looks good. Kenny Pickett, let's talk about him for a second. So Kenny came in and completed his first 10 passes in this game. He was 10 of 10 at one point. His first incompletion didn't come until his 11th attempt. Now, Kenny wasn't slinging it 30 yards down the field, right? But still, it's always good to see a guy come in, read the defense, take what they're giving you. If it's a dump off out into the flats, take that. If it's a guy sitting over the middle of the football field, take that. And that's what he was doing. And Kenny came in, orchestrated the offense, showed some mobility, ran a couple of times. 13 of 15, 95 yards, 2 touchdowns, including the game winner to Taylor Vaughns. It was a good debut for Kenny Pickett, man. And he's the future in Pittsburgh, it looks like. And I'm intrigued by him. I want to see more of him. That was a lively environment, too. Like, I don't think the Steelers fans cared that it was a preseason game. They were going off. You would have thought that this was week 15, a gotta have it game against the Ravens on a Sunday night. I'm like, y'all do know that this is August, first preseason game, right? It's Seattle in August. They didn't care. And then a couple of, small jitterbug return guys. Gunnar Olszewski, you remember him from New England Patriots fame. He's now in Pittsburgh. And so is Steven Sims Jr., the former Washington Redskins / football team wide receiver. He looked good in this game. He had a big punt return. They gave it to him on a jet sweep. He picked up a nice piece of change there. He's going to fight for a a roster spot. And the interesting thing with those two, Gunnar Olszewski is already on this team. And he's supposed to be your primary return man, but Steven Sims Jr. is like, yo, don't forget about me. And he's making a case for himself. Ray McLeod is now in San Francisco with the 49ers. They have an opening for that gadget, we want to do a jet sweep type of guy. That could be Steven Sims Jr. So I want to see what they do there. Do they keep both of these smaller guys, or is it just Gunnar Olszewski and they keep Steven Sims Jr. on the practice squad? I don't know what's going to happen, but both of them, I shouldn't say both, because Gunnar Olszewski is already on the roster. Steven Sims Jr. made a case for himself making the football team in this game, but his thing has always been, the talent's always been there. The thing for him has always been consistency. Can he continue to play at a high enough level that makes the Steelers say, hey, we got to keep this kid around? We'll see. Miami at Tampa Bay. They passed on the game, so did I. New Orleans at Houston, I was this close to passing on this game. I have no interest in watching Andy Dalton play football. None. But I had to assess the situation. I said, okay, Jameis is hurt. And then the Texans said, hey, I'm going to give you some Davis Mills. I was like, all right, I'm in. But I don't appreciate them giving me a dollop. You remember the commercial? Everything tastes better with a dollop of Daisy. Dollop of Daisy, yeah. I don't want a dollop of Davis. I need the whole spread, okay? Don't give me a little bit of Davis Mills like this man's a fourth-year quarterback and he's established. This is a second-year quarterback trying to show you that for a first-year head coach, I may add, trying to show you that he belongs in this league. Why are we giving this man 2 possessions and 3 pass attempts like he's already arrived? It's Davis effing Mills. Don't give me a dollop of Davis. Give me the whole thing. So I sit down and I'm watching this game and Davis Mills is out after the second possession. I was like, you got to be kidding me. I was so upset. I just turned the game off. I don't want to watch this shit. This is why I showed up in the first place. I don't care about Andy Dalton. Andy looked sharp, though. I ain't going to even shit on Andy. Andy went down the field, took him, got him in the end zone. Good for Andy. Davis Mills, 3 of 3, 14 yards. They had like a penalty on each of his possessions that pushed them back and put them in a tough spot. I don't like that. He should have been out there for 2 more possessions. Jalen Petrie. God damn it, I love Jalen. I told y'all about this young fella, man, out of Baylor. He was flying around the football field. The only reason I felt good, like after I left this thing, I was like, at least I got to see Jalen Petrie. He had a tackle for loss where he shot the gap and just cut the legs from under the running back before he even knew what hit him. This dude's gonna be a problem, man. I love me some Jalen Petrie. Anyway, Dallas at Denver. These two teams punted on the game, so I punted on that game. Rams at Chargers. We know both of those teams don't respect the preseason, and being that the Chargers coach came from LA and they know each other, they scrimmaged all week, and so the game was rendered meaningless. So I passed on this game. The Rams and the Chargers, no matter what happens, they're not going to play their guys in the preseason. They've already shown us this. So I'll be passing on all Rams and Chargers games infinitely until they get new coaches that believe in the preseason. And then the Vikings and the Raiders, they passed and punted on the only game on Sunday. And so I have no interest in, talking about nor watching that game either, even though they did play Kellen Mond. I have no interest in watching Kellen Mond play football. So same thing with Kyle Trask. He got a ton of run in Tampa Bay. I have no interest in watching Kyle Trask because I don't think they believe in Kyle Trask. I don't think the Vikings believe in Kellen Mond. So anyway, I digress. That's your run. All right, we'll be going slate skating when the season starts. I'm in the preseason too. Okay, so we're all in this preseason mode together. We're figuring things out, but that's me going slate skating around week 1 in the National Football League's preseason slate. You know what? For week 1, it wasn't half bad. Look, preseason product stinks. Keep it a buck. But that wasn't half bad. It wasn't. These weren't tough watches, as tough as it usually is this time of the year. I want to see what teams do in week 2. I was so disappointed in week 2 of the preseason last year. I was really expecting teams to put their guys out there, even if it was for a possession or two, because you didn't want to put them out there. And there were a lot of teams that, I wouldn't be shocked if Kansas City said, gave Patrick Mahomes and company some run in, preseason game 1. We don't need to see them anymore. Teams did that last year. They played their guys in week 1 of the preseason and then sat them in week 2 and 3. And I'm like, interesting. You think you'd want to play your guys a little bit closer to the start of the regular season, not further away. But anyway, I'm looking forward to preseason week number 2. This is the new dress rehearsal, right? No one's playing their guys in week 3 of the preseason. We saw what happened to J.K. Dobbins last year. No one wants that. So I think this will be the last look until we get to September that you'll see starters on NFL fields in the preseason. So I'll enjoy this week of preseason ball, and then we'll go from there. So I got a couple of super chats. I'll knock these out, and then we will skedaddle. All right. Trevor Patch, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Trevor Patch, writes, Lou, did you watch the Hard Knocks episode 1 yet? That's the same energy I saw in their game. Expected that same energy out of us and concerned about week 2 now. I haven't watched it yet. My wife wants to watch it, actually. So she was like, hey, don't watch it without me. So I think what we'll do is we'll binge watch episodes 1 and 2 when they come out. And when 2 comes out this week, we'll just knock down 1 and 2 together. And then I'll be able to talk about it on the podcast later on this week. But yeah, I mean, I saw the Jamal Williams crying at practice. Hey, this shit means something to me, man. This won't get emotional. Like, okay, Jamal, all right, shut off the waterworks, okay, dude. But in all seriousness, their head coach is intense, so that's what you expect from the team. They're going to be intense because their head coach is intense. So, no, I haven't watched it yet, but I am definitely going to watch it for sure. Thank you for that super chat and for being a member of the MOBB, Trevor Hatch. And I'll just say this. Don't be concerned about week 2 because of that. Just be concerned because the Lions aren't going to lay down for us, and we're not a good enough team to beat teams that technically we're supposed to beat. And I even feel dirty saying that because we're not supposed to beat anybody, but you should be concerned with the Lions because they're an NFL team and they're capable of beating us, not just because they got energy and you don't think we do. Just be concerned about every game because we're the Commanders and we find and create ways to lose. And so we could lose to the Lions in week 2. I feel like I skipped over some supers. Hold on a second. Maybe not. Okay. Yeah, I did skip. I was like, wait, I feel like nope. I think this is it right here. All right, LT, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy LT writes, T, in the last live, you said I was wrong about the all true man reference for Debo. Care to place a wager on that? If I'm wrong, I'll super chat you $100. Well, 90.01 since I just supered now. LOL. Go. I think I would take you up on a bet there because again, Debo, I know I used to always talk about because again, the all true man reference for me was for Todd Gurley. Now you might have already gone back to a video and watched it, but I feel confident that I wouldn't do that with Debo Samuel, and maybe I did. Maybe I did in one particular game. He went off, and because Debo's a man, he's a grown ass man. And so maybe he went off in a game and I talked about him being an all true man. So I probably shouldn't take you up on that bet because you sound like a confident man who has gone back and has a receipt waiting on my ass. Right. So I don't know. I don't know if that's a smart decision on my part. You seem like you've got receipts waiting on me. So I don't know if I should do that or not. But I can tell you the origins. All true man was for Todd Gurley. And you can understand why. And Debo, it was Debo. I'm going to just tuck mine in. That was my Debo Samuel thing. But again, I might have said it for Debo in one of these playoff games like against Dallas where he went off. I wouldn't doubt that I might have, been in my pocket and said it one time. So anyway, I digress. Twin D, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Twin D, writes, LT, I know it's difficult and early in the game, but do you feel last year's QB class will far exceed this year's when it's all said and done? Of course I do. I mean, you answered that question, and you can answer that question. Again, we don't know. It's an inexact science. I can say that, and feel 100% certain about that, and then look up and the class with Malik Willis and Desmond Ridder and Kenny Pickett and Sam Howell and all those guys end up being better than the draft class of 2021 where there were 5 first-round picks at the quarterback position. We had one guy go in the first round, no one go in the second, and then we had like 3 guys go in the third. So that tells you what the league spoke. They said this is a draft class that doesn't really wet the palate. Okay. So I'm clearly rolling with the 2021 class. I believe in Trey Lance and I believe in the situation that he is in. Mac Jones, perfect fit in New England, even though I don't believe in their offensive play calling situation right now. I think he is good there. I think Trevor Lawrence is in a great spot in Jacksonville. I think Justin Fields right now is in trouble. I feel bad for the young man. I truly do, because I think his situation is not ideal, and I'm missing somebody. Zach Wilson is another guy that is kind of iffy for me. And I was a big Zach Wilson guy, and I was like, yo, I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up being the best quarterback in that draft class. I might be wrong about him. I'm staying 10 toes down on Zach Wilson, but it's not looking good, and this injury complicates things, and it doesn't make it any better. But I said out of that draft class of 5 guys going in the first round, 2 of them are probably going to be really good. The rest of them, that's what happened in 2018 when we had 5 guys go in the first round. It was Darnold, it was Mayfield, it was Jackson, it was Rosen, it was Allen. And the last 2 men standing with that group right now is Jackson and Allen. Mayfield's holding on, and I still believe that he can be good, but the other 2 stink, right? Darnold and Rosen. So that's usually how, when you draft 5 guys in the first round at the quarterback position, that's usually how it goes. 2 of them are going to be really good. There may be a third that, you might be able to get something out of. That's how I think that this 2021 class is going to end up being. I think Lawrence and Lance are going to be your 2 really good quarterbacks. And then I think Matt Jones will be that third guy just kind of scraggling along. He's solid. You can win football games with him, but I don't think he's going to necessarily move the needle. And I think right now Zach Wilson is in danger of stinking, and Justin Fields, it's not about his talent or lack thereof. It's about the situation. It's not a good situation that he's being put in. So, yeah, 21 class trumps 2022, and it's not close. And I think the league spoke by how many went in the first round in 2021 versus how many went in the first round in 2022. So there is that. Anyway, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on the 283rd installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I thank you guys for joining me. I look forward to chopping it up with y'all in the future. Do me a huge favor. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content. Turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a thing, and also hit the like button as it helps this channel grow exponentially. And also, if you are interested, if you've got the balls, come get at the kid in the LTN exclusives. All right, whether it's the Soul Survivor pool, whether it's the Winners and Losers League, come get some. Don't be on the side, or it's the weekly pick'em pool, right? Like, you don't want to make the year-long commitment that the Winners and Loser League requires. All right, jump in that weekly pick'em pool. Get you some. Look, if that's not your speed, then it's not your speed. But I know every year I talk about my picks and this, that, and the third, and somebody's like, hey, I went 13-3 last week. I don't want to hear that shit. If you ain't in the league, if you ain't in my pool, I don't believe you. You need more people. Okay? So if you about that life, don't tell me, show me. All right? LTN exclusives, and I'll be talking more about them as we continue to get closer and closer to the start of the season. I'll be talking more and more about those LTN exclusives. But the link will be down in the description. I should have already had it down there, but I'll have it in there as soon as this video is over. Link will be also in the links will also be down in the comment section. I will pin that there so you can have access to it there as well. So looking forward to you guys coming and jumping in. Anyway, got a brand new member, Silas Carden. Stand up. You are officially the newest member of the MOBB, Silas Carden. So glad to have you aboard, and looking forward to chopping it up with you as we near the season. There is so much to discuss, whether you're a fan of Washington or not. You know what it is. I'm here covering the entire league like a blanket. So, Silas Carden, welcome to the squad. And with that said, on that note, I am getting out of here. You guys enjoy the rest of your evening. I will see you guys on Thursday for the next installment of the Louie T Network podcast. Until then, get off the bench, get in the game, and kick it with me, your man, Louie T. You guys have a good one. God bless, and good night.